Good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting agenda of the governing body of Bloomingdale, 21 at 7 p.m. Call the meeting to order by saluting the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor D'Amato,
Here.
Councilman Catalano,
Here.
Councilman Delaritza. He is on a conference call line for the record. Councilman Graziano,
Here.
Hudson,
Present.
Doolin,
Here.
Gasky,
Here.
We also have our municipal clerk bringing the script, business administrator Michael Sondland, as well as Attorney President. This meeting is called pursuant to provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law, adequate notice of the meeting is advertised in the Herald News on November 30th, 2021. Copies are provided to the local news media and posted continuously on the municipal building. A copy of this notice is available to the public and will file with the office of the First State Fire Code and requires the acknowledgement of the first effective in this council. Exit through, secondary exit to the left of the building. For this emergency, walk orderly, exit to the door, down the stairs and out the building. We have no non-agenda items today. Have a motion to open up the public comment.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Linda Huntley, 86 Van Dam. I'm going to address the same items I addressed last week, and I just wanted to know if you feel it's better for me to do it now or later.
Report of committee.
So move.
Aye.
Aye. Got one for the EDC. So we had our last drawing for the Taste of Bloomingdale. When was it? Last week, whatever the last Thursday of the month was. So that's going to be the last one for that program. The winner received a $100 gift card from Cordalis Law. Mr. Sondermeyer, did that winner pick it up? They did. Great. So they're not going to continue the program for next year, but they're going to think of something new. The idea is each year to get something different that gets people engaged and attending local businesses. So more to come on that. And that's all that I have.
Health Department. We are going to be doing through Passaic County COVID testing December 29th and 30th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Passaic County Community College. The lines are long, so be prepared. Also, there is going to be a vaccination clinic January 14th from 3 to 7 at the Haledon Public School. And as I've said in previous council meetings, you know, there are vaccinations available for those who want it through local pharmacies.
Yeah, we just had a water break a couple of weeks ago on Rathian, corner of Rathian, and took care of that. That's pretty much it, Mr. Mayor.
One from Dr. Lee, I think the registration is open. And one in-person registration here January 9th from 12 resolution number 2021.
So move. Second.
Catalano,
Here.
we're doing a vote, please, vote.
a vote for the consent agenda.
Oh, yes.
Delariva? Yes. Graziano?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Julian? Yazdi?
Yes.
Headed items, number 9, bond ordinance number 27-2021, amending bond ordinance to increase section 20 of public works.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News, and copies were made available to the public so that a motion may be made that it be read by title.
I have a motion to approve by title.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 10-2017, finally adopted on April 4th of 2017, as further amended by bond ordinance number 27-2018, finally adopted on November 1st of 2018 by the Borough Council of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to increase the total NJSA 40A:2-20 cost by $60,925.61 from $190,000 to $250,925.31.
A motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance, please come forward. Seeing no one, a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any comments on this before we move on? Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Delariva? Yes. Graziano?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Julian? Yazdi?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Second and final reading of ordinance number 28-2021, amending chapter 92 zoning, please zoning of lot 30, 35, lot 33. All those in favor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News, and copies were made available to the public so that a motion may be made that it be read by title.
Have a motion to read by title.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, rezoning Block 3035, Lot 33, amending Chapter 92 zoning of the Code of the Borough of Bloomingdale.
Motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak on this subject, please come forward. You do. Name and address.
Karen Flar, 23 Sally Street.
Deborah Giles, 25 Sandwich Street.
So we are neighbors of this property that's on Star Lake Road. And we're just a little bit concerned about the water issues we've been having recently and how rezoning might affect that. Just are interested to see what kind of assessments have been made prior to rezoning.
Okay. I'm familiar with the property. I'm the one builder, so I'm familiar with the building itself.
Yeah.
You know there's wetlands behind there. Okay, this is the first step, possibly, of some time if that building is sold, to develop that piece of property. Okay, we were approached by the owner to put it into a different zone, which kind of makes sense because the apartments are right there on Star Lake on that side, and that zone is what we're changing today. When this, and if it ever happens, okay, that's up to the building owner to get the process going. I'm sure he will have to go through approvals before our planning board and also zoning to make sure that whatever they're building there meets all the requirements. We know there's a water issue back there, there always has.
The flooding was extensive.
Right, I know how it goes up, it's, like I said, I'm familiar with it, but it's a long process to get there, and when that process starts, you'll be able to come and speak on what they're talking about here. But that would have to go before our planning board, and they would have to do all the approvals for that property there. When we have to submit the drawings, whatever they want to do, the concept plan. It's a long process. So there's time. But we are rezoning it to match the rest of the street.
The rest of the street doesn't have the same, there's two streams that converge right there.
I know. And then it comes down off of Catherine Street, and cuts across and goes around the back, and then it all suddenly runs the back of Sally Street and goes through there. So we are aware of that, but it all comes down to applications, approvals, which will just rezone it to match the rest of the area.
What the biggest concern on changing the landscape, enforcing the one in different direction, would that be on the South Street?
Well, that part we don't know, because I'm sure when that goes for approvals, all that will be taken into consideration. And I'm not sure 100% if they have to go for a DEP approval.
You're right, but you're right, Mayor. They will have to have, at a minimum, a site plan approval, which means you'll get a personal notice that there'll be a hearing. You'll have an opportunity to come out. So the planning board will take a look at all of the issues and the off-site impacts. That's part of their whole process. That this tonight doesn't give any property owner an approval. It just gives them the right to come in and make that application. And I think some of the discussions I had with the administration were, it's a less intensive use than some of the commercial uses that could come along there. And yet they still have to come forward, and they're gonna have to keep all their runoff on the property if they make an application. And all of the engineers to assure you, in the neighborhood, that there won't be a negative impact. Otherwise, the site plan will not be approved. There'll be conditions. So like the mayor said, there's gonna be if they do this, there's a detailed plan, a chance to be heard. They're gonna have to, basically convince the planning board that your concerns are addressed.
What,
We all public knowledge.
what our attorney is saying, and Fred, please, is that when something like that happens, and please, Fred, give me an idea of property-wise around, is that everyone within a certain radius has to be notified, I'm sorry, 200 feet.
From the boundaries of that property line.
You will be notified.
Personal notice
Yes.
to the mail.
Yep, it's a certified letter.
Just like you got noticed tonight.
Mhm.
Just to let you know, and I'm a little familiar with, kind of projects like that, drainage is a big part of it. So if we run off and all that, they have to make sure it all goes in the right direction. In my opinion, you should never put what South Street to go and done where it will affect anything.
Like, after really,
Yeah.
so there's no more room to
There's
go.
no more, believe me, I'm very familiar with
It's
this.
a huge impact to that side of the street, I'm sure.
And so you'll be noticed when this all starts, if it ever starts, we just know we were approached to do this, we're doing this part of it, which will help all around. But when the project starts, everybody will be able to be there. So that's all the meetings and your concerns, and then everybody is.
So Mayor, they're not, an application doesn't mean they would come forward and they'd be protected on some grandfather clause, because of drainage. That starts brand new with the regulations that are after that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? See, no one, motion for the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian,
Okay, I'm gonna stay here, and I understand what we're doing here tonight. Get an idea of our relationship with the tenant, and the both down there.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Catalano,
Yes.
Delariva,
Item C, ordinance number 29-2021, amending chapter 19 solid waste regulations of the Wood State.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News, and copies were made available to the public so that a motion may be made that it be read by title.
Motion read by title.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 19, Solid Waste Management of the Code of the Borough of Bloomingdale.
Motion open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Steve, want to stop? Order? Give a brief, why we're doing
Yeah, very brief. It's just gonna limit, what we have happening is when, especially when people are moving, dumping their entire contents of their house out on the curb, or obviously it affects the rates, from our dumping fees, and all the borough residents are paying for those people that are abusing, the sanitation department and the sanitation ordinance. So what this does, it limits the number of cans, the number of items you can actually put out at the curb, and we'll be able to monitor it with our property maintenance and our DPW going forward.
Just for example, a few weeks back, I got a text on my phone. That there was a whole house that was empty, from one end of the property on the curb to the other end of the property, and probably 5 or 6 feet high, furniture, plastic bags, everything. And that was on a Sunday, which to me, corruption of the town on Sunday to begin with. So we got a complaint, went over there, property maintenance drove, and the people were really nice, because they just moved here, and I guess they emptied the house and the stuff that was left, they just moved, so they didn't really know. But they pulled everything back and it worked out fine. It's happened multiple times throughout the borough. So we just need to control that. One house we had a truck, I think, 3 times to pick up that. Anyway, that's what it's
So, Mr. Mayor, so now that we will have the, I guess, the authority to find those people that are doing this? I just want to understand, what does this do for us?
If they abuse it, we'll give them a couple of notices, and if they continue to, we can fine. If they don't take their garbage, they put it out on a Monday, and it's again, the entire curb worth. We ask them to move, we take what we're able to take, and we tell them we gotta take the rest off, because that's go out on Thursday. We can fine them for leaving it out, when it's not a garbage pickup day. There's also, we'll be able to help them, we'll give them different scenarios or different options they can choose from to try and get rid of bulk items. One of the next orders we're actually going to put in, it's a fee, so we'll give them, they can choose a charity, we'll give them telephone numbers to call, Goodwill numbers to call, and at the very last option, we'll say at a fee of $10 a large item, the borough itself will come and pick it up as well. So it'll be the last option they'll have to do that as well, or they pay somebody else on their own, like Waste Management, to get rid of themselves.
if we have any recommendations for people for a person to come in, they can to help them out, somebody's hand on the table. So, just all around, it just benefits the borough, benefits our dumping fees. If they repay, then LSS.
But if I'm putting out a couch, right, I have to call and pay a fee, or is that going to get picked up?
It all depends. If you read the ordinance, is a number of, you're allowed 4 cans,
Okay.
or equal to. So if you put out a large chair or sofa type thing you're talking about, or a sectional, whatever, a piece of a sectional, and 3 garbage cans, that's 4 items, that's what we're allowed to pick up.
Yeah.
If you put out 5 cans and a 2-piece sectional couch and a refrigerator and then the kitchen table and stuff like that, then no, then you need to register. You need to call and get those things picked up on your own.
Or just put them out.
Or just call and then
One item at a
we
time.
call, like you do white metal,
Yeah.
to call town hall right now, and then we'll put it on the schedule to pick it up. And we'll say, okay, put it out at your next pickup, and then DPW will go and pick it up, and we'll charge a fee at that point for the items up and over.
I mean, white metal, we make money on, right? The recycle fees and all that.
And we don't charge white metal.
We don't charge.
We don't charge white metal anymore. We just have to register it, and you're allowed to put out whatever you want, but you have to register so we know to pick it up. But we don't charge the white metal.
Because that reason we get, that's recyclers.
If anyone ever has any questions, number one, they should refer to our recycling calendar
It's all
on the
Yep.
website, and that I can tell you personally, I go to that all the time, especially just for days. But it also has a pretty large explanation as to what we take, what we don't take, what's acceptable. And that's, if you go onto the main page, it's on the right-hand side, down only a few columns.
Motion for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian,
Yes.
Yazdi,
No.
Catalano,
Abstain.
Della Ripa. Yes. Graziano,
Yes.
that ordinance does pass.
Item B, ordinance number 30-2021, amending chapter 2-80 fees for bulk items. Councilor Stewart.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News, and copies were made available to the public so that a motion may be made to read the ordinance by title.
Motion made by title.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 8, Policies and Procedures, Section 2-80, Fees Charged for Municipal Services of the Code of the Borough of Bloomingdale.
Motion to public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
It just puts the,
So discussion on this, so going back to that couch example again, what's the fee for a couch, or is that something that I can put out if I'm only putting out one garbage can?
put in that one, there's nothing.
Okay, so a couch and one garbage can is cool.
As long as it fits, yep,
Also fits the
no more than 4 items.
4 items.
So 2 seats, 3 seats on the couch is 3 cans, okay. I got it. Yes, I'm dealing with it.
I see the value in both situations. Who responds to the count? So for example, I'm not a truck.
Right.
If it's a Rolodex and I'm just remembering, or if there's somebody that's completely abusing it.
They know the people that are using it,
Oh.
that they'll know the ones.
I guess where I'm going is we will give the individual back to
No,
keeping them. No.
nope,
Ledger on it.
nope,
Possible here.
because this is every,
And
this,
you're getting flooded with emails and calls, you know, that's spiral out of control.
no, and again, this is every garbage pickup, just so you're twice a week, so it's 8 cans you're allowed to put out a week.
Right,
Can't
no,
pick them
it's
twice
more
a
than
week.
enough. From a garbage standpoint, but piggybacking on what Drew was just asking. So, sorry, I'm taking way too long on this topic. Is there a fine for the person that's moving out and put out their entire life, right, on the curb? Are we able to go find the person that was just leaving?
We
Right.
have done that, we've gone after the
Because-
realtor, and we told the realtor and the realtor company to take care of it.
Well,
That
we
is done.
have something on the books that we can bring into court and charge him that fee and win, right? Okay, good.
Not too long, but it's
Because that's, I think, what needs to happen, right? Not that, you know, our garbage guys become
The
accountants.
realtor company, they're compliant. You call them up, they get it taken care of. It's the people that, I wouldn't say abusing it, but there is situations where if somebody sells their house, or somebody passes away. Okay, now the relatives, they don't live in state, they have to, everything have to leave. But we can find those people.
Yeah, I think communication is key in this one, right? We gotta send something out, you know, I know we send out the yellow flyer, but something out that just says, this is the change that's gonna happen, and we're gonna watch out for it, right? And it's to save you money. You give them the benefit as well.
Yeah, can you do that with the yellow flyer this year? When we send
It's
out the
already out,
schedule?
we missed that timeline with this introduction of this ordinance.
Yeah.
Do it beginning of December, we had to get the flyer to the, so we have it out, we just mailed it out the other day to all the residents. They have it for the year. We did make some modifications, because we knew we were gonna go to 4 cans, but that's in that yellow flyer. The bulk side of it is not.
What's the next mail that I go
To the councilman's point, we'll have a letter drafted up, so when we come across that, we'll take what we have to do, and we'll leave for like a warning, and we'll leave a letter saying, hey, you're not allowed, and we'll reference the ordinance. You're only allowed X amount of cans, blah, 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 any bulk item, not eligible for garbage collection due to weight, size, or bulk is a $10 fee. So we'll draft something up and leave it on the.
I don't want to cost the town $1,300 to send out flyers, all brand new.
No.
There's gonna be a tax letter going out sooner or later, right?
That too.
Yeah,
We can
why don't
put
we
something
apply,
in there
why
as
don't we
well.
put
Yep.
it in the tax, right?
Whatever
We're also gonna have to, you have to remember that sometimes we put things out with our water bills. Right, but I'm saying the problem is that does not reach the entire town, so we'll have to
True.
flood social media with it and our website. Yeah.
Tax witness.
Mhm.
That'd be great, yep, thank you.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Julian? Yazdi?
Yes.
Catalano?
For the same reason as the previous, and just not having enough background or understanding as to why, and the challenges for bulk waste in Passaic County in particular versus others, I'm going to abstain again.
Della Ripa? Graziano?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Item D, ordinance number 31-2021, authorizing the sale of a portion of block 5105, lot 14.01, and portion of block 5105, lot 1402, pursuant to the NJSA 40A 12-13 UP phase out. Public notice is included.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News. Copies were made available to the public so that a motion may be made that it be read by title.
Have a motion to read by title.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to authorize the sale of a portion of Block 5105, Lot 14.01, and a portion of Block 5105, Lot 14.02, pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-13.
Okay. Before I go for a motion for public hearing, I'm going to turn the floor over to our borough attorney, Ms. Hammer, to take us through the process of how we got here today and the benefits of what we're doing with the America.
All right, thanks, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I have a short presentation, if we could put that up on the screen. Just to go through the history of the mirror track and the proposal that the governing body has tonight. There's two things this evening. There's an ordinance for authorizing the sale of property, and then there's a resolution to authorize a contract with what would be for the sale of the property to a developer. So we all know what the mirror track is and where it is. But just to go through some of the history, first, going back to 2007, there was a court order for the development for 360 units. It was an affordable housing obligation of the borough, and that was a builder's remedy. And even if you read the papers today, towns such as Englewood Cliffs, and there's other towns, builder's remedy is what you don't want. Builder's remedy means that the court, and at the request of developers, can rezone your municipality. It means that when there's a builder's remedy, you haven't provided for an opportunity for affordable housing. So from that standpoint, what that means is without a builder's remedy type suit, with a builder's remedy type suit, that it could result in other development throughout the town that you have no local control on that development from a way of zoning. Your zoning is overridden. So that's what happened with respect to this property. D.R. Horton had an approval for 360 units after it being court ordered, and that was going to be on 33.81 acres of land. There was an application, it was approved. That development was closer to the Van Dam side of the actual track. And so in that court order, there was 41 three-bedroom units, just to keep that in mind as well. So what the governing body has in front of them is an obligation to meet its affordable housing obligation and provide for these units, and at the same time, try to find the best way to get the Mere tract developed. Now, the tract is owned by Tilcon. It's a subsidiary of Tilcon called Finbar. They own that property. So what are the options? One option is Tilcon can retain ownership. They could attempt to quarry that property. They could do that by way of making an application for a use variance. I'm not saying it's going to be approved, but they have an adjacent type use to the property and they own the property. And you have a property that's been pretty well documented because D.R. Horton couldn't develop it, that it could not be that easily developed for affordable housing. So that doesn't provide a rateable, that doesn't provide a solution to the governing body as to where you're going to meet your affordable housing obligation. So at this point, the next step in this process is to just take a look at any other options that are available. That's on the next screen. And there was a study done back in 2016 by the Otto Group, this very reputable group, to look at this site and say, what would be the cost to actually just get the site ready for development? Because so many developers have looked at this and D.R. Horton didn't develop the site. The Otto Group calculated that it would cost approximately, and that's with engineering information, $15.8 million just to get the site suitable for development. So the other options with that backdrop for the property to be developed is the borough could purchase the land, develop and monitor its affordable housing for the 72 units for 30 years. We have an estimate that the cost just to get the land suitable for development is $15 million. And just by way of estimate, to develop and monitor and maintain the 72 affordable units, that would be another $15 million. So that would be an obligation of $30 million to the borough. So the next option was that the developer, the land would be donated to the borough, but yet certain developers were requesting a pilot to finance this $15.8 million. So in other words, donate it to a developer and then see if they would try to just develop based on these costs. Rezone it, there's a proposal to rezone it for 544 units to reduce development cost and develop the property to that extent. Or at the same time, another option based on the governing body is allow developers and the courts to make zoning decisions for the borough and result in additional high-density development. Somebody could come along and say, the only way to develop this is with a higher density, even above the 544 units, to make it a viable type of option. So those are some of the options. And then when you look at what, basically the governing body, we've met, I believe, given updates 6 times during the year in executive sessions. And one of the discussions was a proposal by M&T, who's an experienced developer. And their proposal is for $4.7 million that they would purchase the rights to the land and develop the land. And when we look at this proposal, I'm going to put it alongside of what D.R. Horton was going to provide to the borough back in 2007. So $4.7 million, that's to the borough. D.R. Horton, that was their land, so there'd be no type of contribution to the borough. Second, a pilot. If there was a pilot from D.R. Horton, and if this property qualifies for a pilot, there's a minimum payment of 10%. But as we've seen, pilots can have minimums. One of the things in this proposal by M&T is a pilot which exceeds the minimum, if they were to qualify as a redevelopment type project. First, they have to qualify. If they qualify, then the borough would consider a pilot, and the terms of those pilots have a minimum payment. That minimum payment is approximately $300,000 a year higher than a standard type of pilot that would be paid. So over a 30-year period, that's over $9 million. The land that's going to be proposed to be developed, something else, and this has been an ongoing type of dialogue to see how the 33 acres could be a little bit different. This development, if approved, and if the contract's approved, would be over 27.65 acres. And there's a donation of land from Tilcon, not just of the 33 acres, but of an additional 7 acres. So the borough would get 40 acres. 27 plus or minus would go to M&T to construct this development, and it would be further away on the site. It would be further, I think what the word would be, west than where it was previously going to be located, but further away from residential development on Van Dam by, at a minimum, of another 100 to 150 feet. And so that's something that was never contemplated throughout all of this affordable housing litigation and by D.R. Horton. But what it does is it moves the development to in a less intrusive way, and the borough would retain the balance of the acres. So 27 acres, if you approve the sale, would go to M&T. The remaining 13 acres would be held by the borough for whatever. There's no other ties or commitments. It's the borough's land, the remaining 13 acres. And again, as I mentioned, the location of the development at least 100 feet further away from the Van Dam side of the property. And at the same time, when you look at the fact there will be a change, the zoning would go, if it were all approved and if there were appropriate zoning ordinances presented or redevelopment type of plan, it would go from 370 to 426 units. But as part of the contract, I think what you look at in these developments is, in addition to meeting an affordable housing obligation, you really want to try to attract, if you can, the 1 and 2 bedrooms. Because the 1 and 2 bedrooms are people starting out or people who want to scale down. The 3-bedroom units here, per the M&T proposal, there'd be 31. That includes the affordable, it includes the market. The D.R. Horton, even though it was less units, it would have been 42 3-bedroom units. So there again, that's a change. So there's a long history here, and what this governing body has done, and specifically the mayor, Ray, Mike, almost on a daily basis, there were conversations to try to figure out what would work, discussions with Tilcon to try to get additional land and change basically the layout of this project and yet meet an affordable housing obligation. It gives you a proposal from M&T. In summary, if I was just going to, at the next slide, just summarize what you have with this ordinance and then the contract, is the following. First, it satisfies the town's affordable housing obligation. Now, back in March of this year, the governing body said, look, as opposed to trying to match up the site plan work by Tilcon with a potential suitor, the governing body adopted an ordinance back on March 16th that said we'd like to see if we could get the land donated. We'd like to see if that would be part of our third round plan to give Tilcon their right to continue their operations on their site, but to give us a chance to develop this land and reach its maximum potential. So by doing this, you meet your long-standing court obligation going back to 2007. Because this would be a project where there'd be a deed restriction on the property, that those units have to be built. Second, it generates, as we laid out just in a general standpoint, revenue. There's $4.7 million of revenue in the actual contract that would be paid to the borough in phases upon signing of the contract, approvals, first CO, and then it supports the local budget over time, because if in fact You know, in these type of projects, especially a project where you have at least documented $15 million in development costs, if it qualifies, it's a project that's right for a pilot, because you have to have those type of incentives to get this done. But those incentives are really capped favorably, because there would be a minimum payment of $1.1 million a year. And in the Avalon Bay project, Bloomingdale has one of the few pilots with a minimum. That minimum is what's being paid every year. That minimum is higher than the revenues that Avalon Bay is generating on the site. So if it wasn't for that minimum, you would receive hundreds of thousands of dollars less. And I give Ray a lot of credit for, you know, always sticking to his guns and working on that issue. But that's what's part of this proposal. So there's a guaranteed payment and revenue stream, which also means there'd be no tax appeals or reserves for less revenues. But nonetheless, that's down the road. You're not approving a pilot tonight, you're approving a concept and a contract. So this would also minimize the development, because for the first time in all the years in dealing with this project, dating back to D.R. Horton, the project is going to be on a smaller scale from 33 to the 27 acres. And then there's going to be land left for the borough to hold without any obligation to develop. It's to maintain potentially a buffer, potentially other type of borough use, but not to be part of this development, or not to have a developer come back and say, we want to develop this tract. It's to meet the obligation. And then, just finally, the borough is relieved from its obligation to pay for this housing, to pay what could be up to $30 million to ever develop and find this housing, because there's not that many tracts of land, and the costs of the development are extraordinary here. So you're relieved of that obligation, and as I said, you have a better location for the project. So, I mean, Mike has, I think I've spoken to him almost every day about trying to, you know, keep this discussion and the dialogue. We've gone back to the governing body on numerous occasions for check-off points during the year. And, you know, the mayor has brought in, you know, to challenge us, to try to find better ways to get this done in a more efficient manner, and one that doesn't expose the borough, because we really need to get this project done. And this developer has responded. There's an affordable housing obligation, which they're committed to. So it's not like, you know, one of the things the mayor was very concerned about was, would you sign this contract, and then the developer comes back and says, well, I didn't know you had this affordable housing obligation. So now I want to renegotiate, and the price is going to be less. That's why we've had about 6 discussions over the year to negotiate that and to try to discuss what would be best. There were other discussions with developers, and those discussions ended pretty quickly when they said, well, if you donate the land, we'll consider, or we need more density, things like that. So that's what you have before you tonight, and if the governing body has any questions or comments about it, it's just quite a history. And looking back into 2007 and what was going to be built by D.R. Horton and where you are today, you're fortunate. And if you look at the map, I think we could go in and just show you, just go back, it's such a great view right there. That diamond is where that development would ultimately move from, and you can correct me, Mayor, if I'm wrong, but from the yellow and the red area, it's going to move more towards where the purple diamond is.
Correct. I
And
think they have to just realize, the whole red marked out area is the 13 acres and change that we will be retaining as a borough. We have control,
Right.
which gives us a nice buffer between our residential area behind our DPW. It limits the accessibility for the developer to, as Fred said, possibly want to put more. But we have that control. So this, to me, is a huge win for the town, because we continue to keep control.
And Mayor, right along those lines, there was a number of requests to say, hey, how about giving us the right of first refusal on the additional lot? And the answer was no, that's not part of this. It's the borough's property. That's what it would stay. And just when you go over the financial aspects, I also know the administration looked at the fact that there'd be an enormous change to the sanitary sewer and water budget too, because of the influx of these connections. When it was Avalon Bay, there was litigation over those fees and costs. But in this case, we put in the agreement, if you approve it, what those connection fees would be. So just generally, I think the administration has a number, what those fees would be to the budget. Mike, you have it.
Yeah, the hookup would be about 1.6 million, and another 300,000 for water, so about 1.9.
That's 1.9, but recognizing by law the affordable units, this includes the affordable units are discounted. They get a 50% reduction on their connection fees anyway, but what we did was lock into those connection fees so that there's no dispute, like you had at one point with Avalon Bay.
But the other advantages to that too, by having more people on our system, that helps the other residents in town that are paying the whole freight for sewer, which is in Bloomingdale, we have a lot of lake communities that are not part of that. So the people that are actually paying that freight, this will also add users to it, which will help maintain the cost of that. Just a little history on that, going back years ago, there was X amount of thousands and thousands of gallons of capacity bought with the idea of developing land. Well, that land never got developed. So now we're going to develop some property, help the water and sewer, which will help our residents with the cost of that. So to me, this is a huge win-win all around for the borough, which we desperately need revenue come into this town. I think everybody would agree to that.
I don't know, Mayor, or council, has any questions for follow?
Anybody?
Fred, the one thing that you were going over as far as, our obligation, right? If we decided against this project tonight, this 72 affordable units is still an obligation that we gotta build.
It's a long-standing obligation, and
Right.
it's only going to get harder, because that wasn't only this round, that was the prior round. And then, so not addressing this obligation, and with, for example, this proposal that you're hard to bring forward, that means you've got to go out and find something else, or you have to develop it or find another location to build 72 affordable units.
But just as far as what Fair Share is doing to some of these other towns around New Jersey, just touch on that, because, going through this process, I learned a lot, and I'm seeing some things that are wonderful in government, and some things that, oh my God, government can really come in bankrupt you if you don't do the
The
right
boards
thing.
have really backed the fact that this affordable housing obligations need to get done. And if there's a willing property owner out there that wants to do it, the courts are going to really take the position that unless you have another alternative, you're going to work with these developers, and you're going to basically come up with a different set of rules, because it's not getting done. So as an example, there's been steep slope waivers, density 3 times what you would normally see on a project, those type of things. And so you're right. So Fair Share Housing they're advocates for this, right? So along those lines, what this proposal does is we wanted to make sure that this developer understood what that obligation was, because what we talked about a lot of times, with the governing body and just with this subcommittee was, look, if you have a contract and it doesn't clearly delineate the affordable housing obligation, the developer will come back, and this happens. This is how all these fair share cases were settled. The developer said, I need more. I need more units, more density, because you want this amount of set-aside. And in this particular matter, the governing body didn't change. It said, we want these 72 units built. They have to be built, and we're not going to turn around and come out with 600, 700 units to get there. So you're right. And if you don't do it, then someone could override your local decision-making body. The reason why you want your affordable housing plan in order is because it gives you an opportunity, like we did earlier, to make zoning decisions. If it's not in order, a court will override that decision. And just like Star Road, right? Starlight. The court could come back without any zoning and say, you know what? We don't care. You, Bloomingdale, didn't meet your obligation. This is not partnership. So even though it's a small tract, we're going to let you build as high and as dense as you want on this property, and we as a court are going to approve it. That's what happened for this tract. The court said, you're going to approve it. And then what you have is, instead of, units that you think is compatible to the neighborhood, you have density 2-3 times the amount, and then you're saying to residents, I can't stop. What you're saying now is, we're going to zone the way we want and keep that whole rule.
No, thank you for that. Yep.
So for Ray, it sounds like from the fair housing perspective, it's a very hands-off approach in the sense that we're not coming to our community and walking around the property saying, this makes sense, or this doesn't make sense. It's more of a one-size-fits-all approach to solving the problem. Is that sort of a fair assessment?
I think, Drew, that's a good question, but in this case, I'm going to say it's not, because one of the things the developer talked about here, in all of these type of discussions, was we could save money if we could build the affordable units separate. We just couldn't, because there's, more economy scale, this and that. And, we've seen other cases where fair share has been and said, no. I mean, I think it's in Teaneck, it almost happened in Monmouth, where fair share said, you approve this and keep the affordable units separate, that's no go. So, they were part of our affordable housing case, and we had discussions with them, just to say, how do you feel about it? Some of these developers want to build it separate. And we said, we just want to know how you feel, and they said, absolutely not. Given the site, we want to make sure that the units are built, they're integrated, that you really can't tell the difference from one to the other. So here, they did have that input, and so we put that in the proposed contract, that these units have to be integrated, and no exception, because if they try to build it otherwise, it's a problem. So they're more involved, from that standpoint, and probably more involved than they were in 2016 now. Because, for example, here, they looked at this too, because you don't want to do this, and then they run. They say, well, this isn't really what you did. So, they came back and said, if you're going to do this, you should have in a contract before the council that the bedroom sizes will be 125 square feet. Because we're seeing too many units of developers try to shortchange that. So it's in the contract. Because we didn't want to get into, the proposal said, absolutely, we will do that and we'll integrate. So they've taken a more hands-on approach for towns that are compliant. And right now, we're compliant. So that's a good thing.
Well, that's encouraging to hear the challenge that we have with the watershed and where we are compared to out in Salem County, for example, or South Dakota.
Right.
So you hear that they're taking a more hands-on approach. I think it's a good thing. Yeah, it's a big decision. No doubt about it. We're getting it right. And I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this. It's just unfortunate that piece of property is our option. From the other side of the world, like dig and move trees and knock it down. It's a big decision. And I think there's a lot of good that come out of this, and not everybody is going to be on the same page. And that's the reality of it.
Well, I think the starting point was, we all sort of inherited this court order that it has to be developed. And what we tried to do now is physically move the project and spare more trees and more buffer to move the project off where it was forever. And nobody had ever suggested that, but then Tilcon said we'll include an additional 7 acres to do that. So I think that's a significant change. Even when I go back and read all of the discussion that went on in 2005 and 6 and bylaws, it's much more, I keep saying, well, wonder what they would have said if they knew this, because it would have helped at least. I think it would have.
And Mike, you said 1.9 million for utilities?
Including the water.
Yeah, and then there's also other fees, right? Permit fees?
Well, your construction fees,
Construction
yep,
fees.
you gotta file for all their construction fees, which is a substantial number also.
That's gonna be a
Substantial.
significant number.
Couple million?
It'll be close, be
Be
up
up
there.
there.
Definitely over $1 million, yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember when Avalon Bay came into town, that was over 400,000. This is 2.5 times that. So, yeah, it's gonna be all. You know, God rest his soul. Mayor Dunleavy used to sit up here and throw out numbers, over 12 million, over, and when you do the math, it adds up to over $10 million.
Any other questions? You good? Okay. Okay. As we move on, can I have a motion to open up public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak? Come on up, Linda.
Okay, there's a couple of things I still want to address.
Name and address first.
You all know this has been a contentious
Mhm.
development forever, so all the.
I'm sorry, Linda. I think he said name and address, please.
We got it, we got it.
We did? Okay.
Yeah, we have it.
Sorry.
We have it? Okay.
I
I'm
can't.
sorry, go ahead.
I do have a problem,
Okay,
but
I'm sorry, but
Go ahead.
anyway, that this has been a problem development for years. And we all knew there were gonna be certain fees that we were gonna get. We're gonna get water and sewer, we're gonna get tax money, we're gonna get building permits and all that. It was always gonna happen. That's nothing new. That's not such a great thing that's happening. It was gonna happen anyway. But where my issue is that we did have an agreement to have Chilcom prepare the property for the building, which was supposed to reduce development costs for the builder. And development was gonna be only 360 units. Because you relieved Tilcon from preparing the property because supposedly they couldn't agree on something, which I don't know why they can't communicate. We did it for the fire department, building that, and they flattened the land for that. But they wouldn't do that. So you relieved them of that, which I think is part of the problem why we are having the 426 units instead of the 360 units. Is that correct?
I would disagree with that.
Then why did the
As I
units go up?
stated the last meeting, the difference between flattening a piece of property for one building firehouse to build, I'll use Avalon Bay. Avalon Bay's terraced and how they did all that work. To have Tilcon come in without a concept of what it's going to look like from a developer, because we didn't have a developer, and to build it or take it down to whatever grade that would be. We don't know that, we don't do that, okay? They don't do that. They take rock out. Now, if they want to bring it down and flat, they can do that, that's what they do for a living. But overall, any developer that we talk to, you can never get on the same page, because a developer would want to come in and say, okay, we want to build it to buildable grade, which I told you last week, which means they come in and they set a foundation and they're ready to go. Tilcon doesn't do that. There would be an issue, possibly, between Tilcon and a developer. Tilcon would take it down to here, and the developer would come in and go, that's not really what I wanted. And then they would start arguing. And we would get nowhere, and it just wouldn't work. We went through these different scenarios with Tilcon taking it down, and it never worked. It just never worked. To get this project off the ground, we are where we are today. Tilcon is not doing the work. The developer is going to do the work to take it to where they want it. They're going to take the rock to Tilcon, crush it. We're going to get the rock back.
A certain portion is supposed to go to Tilcon. They're going to be getting that. That's what we said the last time.
Whatever the developer takes down,
$600,000, is that the amount? Fred?
No, Tilcon is gonna make available 77,500 tons of crushed stone. And they're making it available to the borough,
It's for the developer.
to the borough.
it's coming
The
to us.
borough's gonna assign that to the developer. If the developer doesn't take it, the borough keeps it. Because we want Tilcon to take care of that crushed stone. And the biggest thing is, and this came up, and this was the mayor bringing this up, we didn't want them to be running trucks on and off the site. We wanted to make sure, so it's one thing about the site, which totally, we all sort of lived through this, it would have just resulted in litigation. Nothing against the parties. It's just hard to say when's enough. When are you going to do enough site work? When are you ready to start? But the rock was really important because what the mayor and Mike kept saying was, we don't want those trucks going off the site. So that crushed stone it's a win-win. It's 77,500 tons, which is worth quite a bit of money. And it's assigned to the borough, and it's part of the agreement with M&T. We give them the right to use that stone, but they gotta stay, basically on the site to do it. We thought that was a better, and if they don't take it all, the borough gets it back.
All right, is anything going to be going off the site with the stone? Is there
No.
going to be a
No.
haul road going on to?
No, there's a haul
No,
road,
there's a
but
haul-
they should not have to use it for the stone. They may have to use it for other things, they can't be totally, but as far as the stone's concerned, no, that's why we wanted to do that.
So
That was something
there'll be a
else.
haul road on Union Avenue?
No, the whole road will be
It's up there.
through the court.
Yeah.
It'll go from the back of the property,
It's right up
I
there.
don't know if we can't see it up there.
Right.
It's right up the back of that.
If you go where the blue triangle is to the yellow, that corner there, that's where the whole road starts and then goes through the woods, right into Tilcon's property. So those trucks will not be on Union Ave. I'm assuming those trucks are gonna be huge, they'll be going back and forth. But we demanded that they will not be using the county road to go back and forth, because that'll just defeat the purpose. We have water sewer lines under there that could seriously get damaged from heavy equipment, so we avoided all that.
Okay, with the, I guess, Fred, you sent a letter to the judge. When was that approved? That was approved in closed session?
Well, no, it wasn't approved, and we advised the governing body that if you wanted to make this option, remember, it was really approved March 16th. We adopted the ordinance.
That was March 16th approval, was just for Tilcon, not having to get property.
That's
Not-
right, but,
Not the 426 units, that was something.
oh no, but 426 isn't approved at all.
That's in the letter to the judge.
Yeah, but that's only as part of the contract. The governing body still has to go back and turn all the corners to get to the 426, whether it be a redevelopment plan or a rezoning. That's not an automatic, so there's no direction to do that. The only thing we did with the port is we wanted the port to be aware of the fact that if we could find a developer that would develop this site and do so by the donation of the land. And the donation of the land came up, well, you were at that on March 16th. We amended the ordinance. But we didn't go back, we didn't go back to the court and ask for anything to be changed until we knew that that option was really viable. But in order to be consistent with the ordinance, we're obligated to tell the court, look, we have an ordinance that was approved, and, we asked the special master and Fair Share Housing to make that, to basically ask them if that's okay for it to be part of our plan based on the ordinance the governing body adopted back in March, word for word, basically.
Is the contract states they can build 426 units?
Subject to obtaining necessary approvals.
So they don't
Yes.
have to go to planning.
They don't? Oh, they do.
They do.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yes.
Go to
Yeah,
planning.
absolutely.
And the planning
Sure.
board has to approve.
Right.
And if the planning board decides that they don't want to go with the 426 units and to go back to 360, they can do that.
They can do it, but what happens is the next phase of the contract and, all of the concessions this developer made, they'd have to be revisited. But to answer your question, yes, the planning board can do that. They're not bound by making that.
I guess my big question is, why didn't you include the planning board in these discussions? Because they're the ones that are going to be looking at the plan. And if you're saying now that if the planning board doesn't approve the 426 units, that this whole thing might be a lot of waste of, then that's a problem. It should have been approved, looked at by the planning.
No, you can't really operate that way. The planning board is somewhat autonomous to make a
Right.
decision. So you're not going to go to them and say, well, look, this is something that's on the table. Actually, what you want to do is say, here's the deal we have. They need to go forward, the applicant, make their application. We need to take care of a redevelopment plan and bring it forward for approval. And ultimately, a site plan would have to be approved by the planning board with notice and a hearing, and the planning board makes that decision. So no,
You're
no.
saying that it's going to fall through and it's not the 426
I
units. department?
I'm going to say, we will be making a good faith effort to provide that opportunity, but it's up to the planning board to ratify that site plan. You can't commit the planning board, nor can even the planning board make a deal like that. We wouldn't do that.
Okay,
It's up to them.
My question is, which I had asked last week.
Yeah.
If the planning board decides that you can only do 360 units, is the council going to override that?
Well, the council ultimately has the ability, as you know, to zone and make a decision to provide for a higher density on the site. The planning board then would adhere to that density, but make sure, like we said earlier, that at a site plan, all of the site plan considerations are addressed. So when you say override, the council makes the zoning decisions, but the planning board makes the site plan decision. So the council can make the decision to say, we're going to give an opportunity after appropriate notice and zoning ordinances to get up to 426 and a basis for that. And the planning board can make a decision as to the site plan. And by the way, just if I can, well, I'll wait till you're done. I don't want to interrupt. One point I want to make today about that area.
Okay, when you don't have the land that's going to be held and it's going to be deed restricted, is there going to be any kind of a conservation easement on that property? Or is it going to be, or will there be additional development by somebody? Are we going to sell to somebody else and get sued again?
Which property are you talking about now?
This additional.
The new 12 acres that we didn't have previously. The good news, right? The 12, really, I mean, we never had that. The 12, no. Alls we did was make sure that that property severed and in the name of the borough. That's for future governing bodies to decide. Could be conservation easement, could be open space, could be development, whatever, but there's no, it's not part of any kind of plan. It's not part of the affordable housing plan. It's for the governing body in the future to make a decision. Because that's good, it's the holidays, it's good news. 12 acres we didn't have before. It even made us fun. We talked about it, it's great, it's great, it's terrific.
You're going to make me smile.
Yeah, it's good news. Anytime you can walk away with additional land without any commitment and still have, you know, these obligations addressed, I think it's such a positive to have that without any commitment whatsoever. And the subcommittee and the council fought really hard to say, we're not touching that land. We're not going to give anybody a right, you give somebody a right of first refusal, you know what happens. Not done. Totally, you know, said that we're not doing it. That's really just, that was well done. That's
You know, if they do build this 426 units,
yeah.
are they going to be using the entire piece of property that they're entitled to use?
You know, it depends what that concept looks like and what the planning board says. And, you know, so I don't know for sure if that means they're going to build it out or not.
Because if they are going to be able to come back and say, well, you can build more, I'm not going to do that.
Look, any property owner could, right? They could try to figure out a way, not to this development now, but later on, that could, in any property, be a concern. And you can't stop somebody from trying, but there's no commitment by the borough to do anything. But there's one thing, because those concerns were raised by the subcommittee and then the council. The council was really adamant about this, and so it's a great question to raise. If they ever try to build more units, and they're successful for the next 30 years, they owe the borough $15,000. $17,500 for every unit that gets approved. So if they ever were to figure out, and I'm not saying they could, but if they ever figured out a way to get another 100 units, the borough gets paid $1.7 million. It's not like, how did we let this happen? That's to basically work as a deterrent and to protect the borough. So that too is good news. You just don't see that. There'll be an actual filing to memorialize that so it never gets in the way, you know, down the road. That commitment would be there, which is unusual, but it was part of the reason why it took really the whole year to come up with these what ifs. So that would be addressed. So that's good news too, because that doesn't always happen, as you know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's at 125 revamp. Couple things. most of you don't know, but I was on council in the mid-90s when the mirror track went to court. And I have to say nothing but congratulations. We tried when I was there, could not get anything done. The mirror track, the Miro family was actually going to build this. And it's going to be, I believe, around 280 single-family homes, averaging 3 kids in the house. Okay, we're going to see 700 kids in the system back in the, I guess somewhere in the mid-90s. So it went to work. I was involved in that portion of it. Don't really have too much to say, you know, it's bigger than I got out of the system. But the fact that you guys were able to put this deal together, my family owns a construction company and the site developers. The $30 million, Fred, not even close. Way beyond that. Okay? It's a great number, but it's not a realistic number. The idea that you were able to take the relationship with the developer, put this piece together that has been sitting there, you are forced to allow development no matter what you do. You did the best possible deal that bring a developer in, getting paid up front, taking care of water and sewer fees. The connection fees are one thing, only the additional fees you were talking about, right? You know, the buildings, code officials. This is money that's going to revenue, that's going to enter into this town. I have lived here my entire life, and the truth is, this is a pass-through town. Everyone turns back to Stenano, extra 27, extra 23. Nobody stops. This is going to force local business owners into maybe updating in their stores, maybe looking to do more business, because this is going to bring people into this town. This happened in Richmond 30 years ago, 20 years ago. We look at some of the Bergen County small towns that don't have the same access that we have here, and look what they turned into. So I really didn't want to take anybody's time. I really want to say congratulations. This is a really wonderful project. I don't think people realize, you know, what kind of effort this takes. And because of what I do for a living, the negotiations I'm involved in, I have never in my life seen a deal where you've got property donated, a developer who came in and were able to not force you 10 cents, him to pick up the cost, and a piece of property that you could hold on to for you or any other future governing body to do something with. I think all of us should be very proud of ourselves. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
General Appeal 17 Cedar Street. As a former council member back in 2007 when all this fun started, along with Linda and others that are here, thank you for getting this thing done. It has been a thorn in everybody's side, and if we can at least get some of our COA obligation met. Now, is this 1 round and 2 rounds, so this takes care of the 2, or is it possibly the 3rd?
This basically would address our obligation through the 3rd round.
Okay.
Yeah, at
Yes.
least its primary obligation, yes.
So then we're all cool, we need it, nobody can come in and sue us. We've been in court more than we've been out of court with this thing. Congratulations, thanks.
Money.
First 29 Hillside Drive, and I haven't lived in Bloomingdale my whole life. Moved in 2001. I lived in an apartment building my whole life, and a couple of notes. I've been hearing, I've heard about this, and it upset me to hear 460. I understand the obligation number, you know.
It's 426.
426.
426. But it was 360, the obligation, or is it?
It was 360 and 72 originally.
I grew up in an apartment building my whole life. My parents, they don't own a home. They live in a 28th floor apartment building, senior housing. So, and all the way in Hudson County. So I drive to see them every weekend. And as far as being lucky, as he stated, because of Bergen County scares me. Now that I lived in Hudson County my whole life, so driving up here, being like going south of Wayne is like, it's a lot. So, when the words like density, impact, and traffic, to me, is a little scary, because, and when you said we're a transient town, or a
Through town.
through town,
Through
that's
town.
scary to me, because, my kid was walking on Union Ave and saw a guy hit a tree and got killed there. Mr. He had a heart attack, hit a tree and like, kids walk. That's another thing, so impact. What about the fire department? Do you need to hire more fire department? Like, do you have to hire more DPW? It's more garbage? Like you're talking about our garbage?
I can answer that. Okay. The developer that owns the property is solely responsible for all the removal of garbage plowing. It will not impact our DPW one bit.
So they're.
Fire department wise,
They're hiring like a waste manager to come in, big truck, come in now.
and just like every other commercial building in this town that does the same thing. There's waste management, whatever, that's just the norm. We don't pick up commercial garbage. Okay, we just pick up residential and some apartment buildings that pay us actually to do that. But as for the fire department wise, we have the best fire department in the state of New Jersey. I'm saying that because I'm a member, okay? All right? The fire department will not be impacted, all right? We have equipment, we have a ladder truck, and when, God forbid, something happens of that magnitude, we have a great mutual aid agreement with everybody in this area, all the way, including Passaic County. Right. So that's not going to be impacted.
Okay, so I also just, as far as I'm not an accountant or anything, but you said, the easy, like as far as us as, residents here, with our taxes, is it gonna help us in the long run lower, or that's it, they're just going up and up? Are they gonna build, and maybe you get the developer to make a nice rec center for the kids, a nice town pool, our kids, granted now with this COVID, they don't go anywhere, maybe, an indoor basketball court, because we have tons of basketball courts in town, that's not an issue, But, are they, building other things for us to enjoy here?
On the site,
Yeah.
yeah, there's going to be, and it'll all come out when they have to come forward with their site plan, but they're gonna have to have a community type of center for the project, as well as the fact,
For the project residents.
as well as the fact they're going to have to also have, opportunity for playgrounds for, any children that are on the site, just for starters, and whatever other amenities that will come up when they come forward with their site. I don't know the other thing. So, but they, that's part of their own incentive to make it more attractive. But those are other
And the
things.
sidewalk that you're having on Union going along, because obviously these kids that start living here, are they able to, is there access? I know you're building sidewalks on that Union. Is there gonna be more accessible for them to be able to?
The sidewalks that we just did on Union Ave was a grant project that replaced the existing sidewalks there from,
Okay, so
right.
that's not anywhere near the project. So
No.
are there gonna be some kind of accessibility for kids to?
At this point, I would say probably not. It is a county road, to put sidewalks in. Right now, that's way ahead of this. Maybe someday down the road, the county will let us put sidewalks in. I would love to put sidewalks from here to Main Street to start, because that's a thing we've tried to do, just to have connectivity, but I can't guarantee that's gonna happen. I'm sure in the development, just like Avalon Bay, there'll be sidewalks for people to walk inside their development, to go to their playground, to their amenities that'll be there. But as of now, there isn't any plans to do anything on Union Ave. I'm sure, Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, they will have to do a traffic study.
Yes.
Coming out of that complex where it is, to see the impact that the traffic's gonna have, whether they will be, because I know the firehouse is right there, there is concern that if we have an alarm, the lights will have to flash, so everything will stop, so nobody gets hurt, to take the safety protocols of that. into consideration. But I know they'll have to do a traffic study to see if, and when people are going into the complex, you have that little like turn like down by Avalon Bay, kind of goes off to the right so they can get in without disrupting traffic. I think that would all be decided by the traffic study. That's kind of new to me.
So that blue part, that is this new.
That's the additional 7 acres.
That is, where would that be? What's across the slope? What's the Union
Okay,
Avenue?
yeah, go ahead, Michael, sure.
This is all up in the woods up on that. This is what you can know.
Again, I've lived in a part of my whole life. I like my town. It's small. You know everyone's name. I don't have any little kids yet. My kids are grown, but I don't see myself moving to North Carolina like everybody else in South Carolina, like everyone else. My parents are still here, and I want to stay here. It seems like words like, density, impact. Look at Bergen County. Bergen County is crazy. That's a nice amenity that we have, that we are with a little tablet, like a little gem.
But you also
in a
have,
small town.
I've lived here.
I understand the obligation and everything.
I'm like Mike, I lived here my whole life. I shouldn't say that. I've been here out of 63 years. I've been here 62 years. All right, I've seen this town grow. I can just tell you, going back way history ago, I grew up on Knowles Road. That's called the Preakness Homes. That area wasn't wanted. It was a fight back then, as the story goes. We're into a position here where we are court ordered to build this development, whether it's up there or somewhere else. There isn't somewhere else. As you notice, we're probably 60% state land, right? Parks and, all right? There was a possibility going back years ago with the horse farm down at the end of town, if you're familiar with the horse farm, Union Ave, all the way down the bottom where, right, that was going to be developed. Well, that never happened. Going back before that, there was an area up on Glenwild Ave, which was the McBride complex. They were going to put townhouses up there, all right? And then we put all this capacity, sewer capacity, that we're all paying for it. And I know you're paying for it because your area was a big controversy when we put sewers up there. Does everybody want to see big developments? Not really. But we're in a position that we're being forced to build them. So we have to take advantage of that. And this is an opportunity where the borough can have revenue coming in to help us with our taxes. Because I talk to a lot of people in town. I can tell you that I'll use the fire department for example. We have young guys in the fire department that are starting their lives out. They're buying homes. They're not buying in Bloomingdale. Okay, they're buying in Butler, they're buying in West Milford, they're buying in Oak Ridge. They're still members, but what's that do to your fire department? People are scattered out. Response time is less. Okay, but we need to make it so Bloomingdale is livable, so people can afford it. There's people moving into town, because I kind of meet everybody brand new people that move into town and knock on the door and say hello. But we're in a point in Bloomingdale where everybody around us is building. Riverdale has 600 apartments and condos on Route 23. Used to be beautiful lakes, Suntan Lake and Valley Spring Lake, going back years ago. Used to have concerts rock concerts in the, right up there. Well, they're a lot lower, but everybody has problems. No matter where you go, everybody says taxes are high. I don't care where, if you're in North Carolina, my taxes are too high, they're $1,200. All right, I'm just, up here, I pay almost $14,000 for a 3-bedroom ranch over here. Go to Butler, it's probably $3,000 to $4,000 less. But I love this town. And I don't plan on going anywhere, but we need to stop the bleeding. And I believe this will help all around. Utilities, taxes, all around. And what's it do? We bring in 426 apartments, right? What's that do for our downtown, for our restaurants, for our business owners? I don't know if you've ever been to the River Beer, it's a great place. All right?
The traffic stain from the parking thing, and that bank should have left the parking open, so.
The bank doesn't own it anymore.
I know.
It's got sold, and and the other thing you have to consider what's going on in town, I believe this, is we have people that are coming into town and investing in our town. We have the old Lawrence transmission shop down there that was horrible looking. The people that came and invested into that building and are buying more. The guy that bought the Wells Fargo wants to invest in our town. There's other people that are talking to other areas of our Main Street to develop our Main Street. I believe, because people are seeing us growing, it can only help us. It can only help us. And it also helps our neighboring towns. I mean, I'm sure we all go to restaurants in the neighboring towns or stores or whatever. IGA is a new owner in town, brand new owner of that building, young guy, has plans for that building. Yes. Okay, so there's people investing in Bloomingdale, including a developer.
And Mr. Mayor, let's just say this as it is. The 360 units is court ordered. We're not sitting here saying, let's bring on a high-density apartment building into Bloomingdale. We have no choice for the 360. Your complaint about everything that you said would still be there, whether it was 360 or 426. It's within 20%. Yeah, it'd be 66 units less, yes. But the garbage truck coming in and picking up the garbage would still be there. All the things that you brought up, but it would still be there. The traffic would still be there. Sidewalk needed, still be there. All those problems would still be there. A week from now, you're gonna be sitting amongst us. I'll be happy to take you through the whole thing, the history of it, just show you the side of it where we're responsible for making a decision that's better for the town. And for my 10 years sitting up here, this is the greatest moment of my 10 years, about to vote on something that's going to benefit this town. It's a win-win-win, and we've negotiated everything that it could have been a gotcha on us. We negotiated it out, and give a lot of credit to the man, standing at the end there. He guided us through this flawlessly. So.
Can I add something as well? I think sometimes, we're in a tough situation in Bloomingdale. And Mike, you used the word through town, and it is a through town, but one of our problems is we're also not a highway town. We don't have what Riverdale and what Butler has and what part of Canelon has. We don't have highways. So we are not able to build a box store to bring in a rateable. We're so limited. We're also limited in where we can build because of the Highlands Act, because of our state land. We're so limited now that, I feel like this is our one chance. And if we screw this up, we all up here, if we screw this up, it's giving us a perfect opportunity to bring in income into this borough that is desperately needed. And of course, Evie, it's not the ideal, but it is court ordered, and it's something that, each of us up here, we really take this responsibility very seriously. And I wish we were in a different situation, and I wish that we had, highway frontage, and I wish, more than half of our property is state land, and yay for us. That's awesome that we can bring in hikers, and we have this beautiful land that is forever there for us. And that's great, but we don't have other things. And this is an opportunity that we are given now to bring the borough money and meet our obligation, our court-ordered obligation. And I really think that this, in my book, is a home run, and I'm really happy about it.
Piggyback off of what you were saying and Mike was saying, businesses go where people are, right? They don't want to sit empty. This is going to bring in more people into this town. Businesses are going to want to come here. So this is just it just lights the fire to bring a lot more good into this town. Look, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's a good 3-4 years away from we actually start seeing some of the bigger benefits, like the pilot dollars and things of that sort. I think it's just a win-win. And at that point, a lot more people, a lot more businesses, they're going to be knocking on our doors rather than us begging them to come in and build something in this town.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing no one, motion to close public hearing?
Someone?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Mayor, just one housekeeping thing, because the resident who contacted the administrator, Sean Meyer, just asked if she could attend the meeting. So, I'm just asking one quick question. And the question was, when did the governing body vote to direct the attorney to direct Judge Brody to modify the mere track order? So, preparing the property and also increasing the enforcement. So there was a good discussion with the public. So this motion we filed was pending in Superior. That was filed at the direction. After we consulted with the council, we said that's one of the steps. We either need to send a letter to the board or file a motion. So we didn't start any lawsuit, we didn't ask for anything. All we did in the motion at the direction of the mayor, who's the chief executive of the borough, on the mayor's side of certification, as you know, just asking the judge to ratify or affirm the ordinance you adopted back in March. That's all we did. We included that ordinance as part of your affordable housing plan. And that's all that happened. So to answer the question that's present, like the discussions with the governing body, we told the governing body of things we wanted to steps. And then the mayor basically directed me to go ahead and my recommendation on December 1st because we really needed some formality or finality to this court, not just a letter from the judge or to the judge.
okay. Okay, I did a motion to close, right? Ready?
No, you did.
Okay. All right, motion for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Gasky,
Yes.
Catalano,
As the youngest member of the council, it's kind of been my focus to come up to speed on this as quickly as possible because of its importance. And I think I told everyone I'll take an extremely technical and pragmatic approach. I couldn't find a hole in this, and I tried very hard because I'm new to see what was there, what I could miss, and I'm excited to say yes.
Delariva,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian,
Okay. Item 10, introduction of new business. Authorizing Department of Public Works staffing. I'm gonna move all, we've already gave the okay for these. Go ahead.
We gave okay for the first four.
Right, and
And
then,
the fifth, I've talked to each member of the council, brought them up to speed on the need and went through the finances as well that the management of DPW supplied to us. So we put it on here, if everybody agrees to hire that fifth and bring them in, we make an offer to this person and be able to get this guy to start hopefully in mid-January, not to late January. He's got enough job that he knows.
okay, how do we want to do this? I can do these individually, or I can block these out 17 through 21.
The first
No,
four
24 is all of them,
Oh.
okay? The additional, labor, which would be number 22, we can do that separately, or if you guys are all good with it, we can do them all at once. I don't know if you guys have your opinions,
I'm good.
okay? All right, so I will move them all at once?
Just a quick comment on something.
Sure.
I just want to recognize Frankie for in the room. Frank did a phenomenal job in bringing us all up to speed on terms of our vision and staffing and walk us through the numbers and we have a really good understanding of what's going on down there and why the additional headcount was potentially to be a savings for the borough. In between semesters in college, I worked for a landscaper. So I had a lot of constant conversations with Rob. I understand Rob's role in our frustration, but so by having a coworker doing the same type of work, I think will be able to be more, impactful, will be more, at the same time. It just will be a better way to maintain our parks, our fields, and our buildings. So, nice job. Thank you.
Nice.
I second that, Drew. I was very impressed by the sheets.
All right, resolution 2021-2021-12.17 to resolution 2021-12, number 24. Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the hiring of these individuals? Second. You have a second?
Second, yeah.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Dominic for a second.
Yeah.
Roll call, Catalano,
Yes.
Delaritza,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian,
Yes.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Okay. Item B, adoption of resolution number 2021-1225, authorizing a transfer of 2021 appropriations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Delaritza,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian,
Okay, let's get off stage here. Just the fact that I just got this, this document on our drive. Don't need there to black out, work on the camera, please don't.
Okay.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Catalano,
Yes.
Item C, adoption of resolution number 2021-1226, payment of the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian, Yazdi,
Yes, with the exception of the appeal made at the, I abstain on that one.
Yes.
Catalano,
Yes.
Delaritza,
Yes.
Okay. Item E, adoption of resolution 2021-1227, adopting a rider to the white collar collective, bargaining to the contract.
Agreed. Yep.
We're adding a senior taco position, which is a technical assistant to the construction office. We had Maureen, who was our senior, leave, she retired. We have an employee that is replacing her and in the process of going through a certification.
Correct.
So we have to add this into the contract, which has been approved by the union
The union.
and with
Yep.
us to make sure. This was just missed when we did the contract.
This is just adding the position, the title to the contract. It was never put in when we negotiated the contract out. So now there'll be a senior taco position in there, have to be certified, have to be promoted into that. Just because you get certified doesn't mean you're on the senior position. So this is just, again, this is not promoting anybody at this point, this is just adding the position so we're able to promote down the road.
Okay? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian,
Yes.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Catalano,
Given that I didn't totally grasp the exceptions to the white collar that were going to be made for this, I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
Delaritza,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Okay. Item E, adoption of resolution number 2021-1228, athletic equipment and supplies. This is so we can start preparing for the spring to open up our fields.
Correct, this is allow, we put an order in now, so we're able to get clay, by the time we open our fields. This is being money that's coming out of the roads fund, so thus the reason is a resolution from the governing body to spend the money.
In 10 years, it's the first time I'm being asked. Thank you. Good job.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Roll call?
Julian,
Yes.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Catalano,
Yes.
Della Ripa,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Okay. Item F, adoption of resolution number 2021-1229, authorizing contract for the sale of the portion of block 5105, lots 14.01 and 14.02. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor, if I could just ask, at the end of this resolution, can I ask for an amendment that it would be subject to any non-substantial changes? You know, if there's a word that's omitted or something to that effect, so long as our office and the administrator are okay, they wouldn't be substantial. We're not going to add a zero, but if we, you know, descriptions off or something like that, wordage. So I just ask, subject to non-substantial changes approved by the borough administrator. That'd be okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second it? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Now roll call.
Yazdi,
Yes.
Catalano,
Frank, I encourage you to continue to put those efforts in with the non-substantial towards the end, and I say yes.
Della Ripa,
Yes.
Graziano,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Julian,
Yes.
Okay. All right, so a motion to go away public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward.
Come on, Bernie. Happy New Year.
Okay. Seeing no one, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are going to go into an executive session. No, there won't be any business conducted afterwards. Evie, I invite you to stay in on this. All right? Can I have a motion to go into exec?
So moved.
Second. And one thing I
Before everyone leaves.
before everybody leaves, and I have Rich Della Ripa on the phone, this is Rich's last meeting as a councilman. So I just want to thank Rich for 9 years of being on a council, dedicated service to the borough. Rich will be still helping us in other avenues and committees. He still wants to participate in moving Bloomingdale forward. I'm going to appoint Rich to the Rose Fund to help with that committee. So he will be available, and he's also our technical guy for the TV. So if we have problems with that, or Rich wants to stay off the dais and run that for us, I would appreciate, because he's recorded all the meetings while he was up here.
And the website.
And the website he's very involved in. So he wants to stay involved, so I will welcome anybody that wants to volunteer their time. But again, Rich, thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you very much.
See you next week, Rich.
Minutes.
And we'll have a nice New Year.
It's been a very worthwhile thing, so, okay. Are you going into exec?
Yes.
Okay, if you're taking no action, then I'd feel more comfortable not being on the
Yeah,
executive session.
you're not needed for this.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Everyone,
Happy New Year, Rich.
Happy New Year,
You too,
everyone.
Rich. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.